This is my song, my song.
What's up, everybody? Welcome. I'm Tucker Newman, creator of Spirit by Tuck, Spirit Tuck myself, and I am creating the Earth Guardian series. This is a behind-the-scenes look into my journey as someone with no experience filming, writing, just feeling the call in their soul, freeing my own spirit so I can help you free yours. So right now, I'm creating this project. Why? Well, I recently discovered that I am a storyteller. I'm an Earth Guardian. I'm here to make the world a better place. And today, I'm sharing why I'm letting everything go except for this project to see it into its full fulfillment so we can live through the transition we're going through as a collective right now. You know, we're living in a world that's collapsed, right? The old story of consumerism, the old story of sacrificing the self for the others at the expense of ourselves is over. And we need a new myth that helps empower not only like people my age, my parents, but the kids that are inheriting this earth, that are incarnating. What is their story? So I was living a myth where I go to work, I make money, I'm a trainer, I'm a life coach, I'm helping people, improve their health, improve their lives. Yet there was this pull inside of me. It's not right. But how could that not be right? I'm doing such a good thing. It was just this internal knowing that what I was doing wasn't my soul path. So while I was working in Boston back in 2023 into 2024, I was a carpenter. And I spent a year as a carpenter and realized that wasn't for me. But I learned a lot of good, important skills, and got back into personal training, which I felt was my true calling. And while I was personal training at a YMCA, I built up a great business. I had 20 clients. It was checking all the boxes. I was loving my life, but secretly I wasn't. Secretly, I knew I was really missing a core component that my soul was needing. So in my own way, I decided, I need to change. I went and lived on a farm in North Carolina, and it was a biodynamic farm. They farmed organically, and it was helping me really reconnect with what I thought was my mission. And so the first synchronicity of my story is I get to this farm, and the first person I start harvesting beets with was this girl, and she had this dream of being this like famous singer, living in Hollywood, living in California. And she gave up on that to just focus on the farming and the earth. And then I met this other guy, and his dream, he was a creative writing major, and he wanted to write these epic novels and these epic stories, and he gave up on that. And then I met this girl who had a similar dream. She was reading all the books, and she was still in college. She was still seeing this dream, but she was also getting caught in like drugs and alcohol and distractions. And then I met another guy he was only at the farm for 2 weeks, and his dream was to make documentary films. And me being the life coach I am with all these people I met at the farm, I'm like, no, you can't give up on your dream. You got to live your dream. And I'm giving them tips on how to do it, even though it wasn't mine in my own mind. My dream's not to go to Hollywood or to, write creative stories or to make documentary films. So through that process, I learned a lot about myself, and that I always feel like there's something bigger for each person, and that's what I'd like to inspire our next generation of kids to believe. And the kids right now are feeling the pain of the earth, as I was, which is why I went to that farm to try to heal the planet. And I learned a lot, and I thought, I'll be at this farm for a while. I'm pretty comfortable here. And then, lo and behold, Hurricane Helene comes in and starts destroying the place and flooding the farm. And I was in Western North Carolina, right in the heart of the disaster. And it was tough because, right, we go into these places and we think, oh, like, it's good, like, this is where I want to be, and the universe has other plans. And in the cabin I was living in this little 10 by 10 wooden shack, and working for free at first, and then I started working for $9 an hour, 40 hours a week, working away. And I learned that you got to surrender to the universe. So when Hurricane Helene came in, I realized that it's time for me to go. As everything got washed out of the area, so did I. And it was interesting because I'm standing in my cabin watching the flooding come up, and if it was about an inch higher, it would have flooded the whole cabin. I was worried the whole thing was going to get taken away because we were right next to a creek, but luckily I'm here and I made it through the storm, and I'm glad it happened because it set me on the next phase of my journey, which was going to a retreat at Mount Shasta with a group I've been working with online through my mentorship with Jason Picard. I've been in that group for over 2 years now, and I've been learning a lot about abundance and a lot about what it means to be abundant from someone who's had a lot of financial success but realized abundance had nothing to do with money because he was totally miserable working on Wall Street, managing hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and still wasn't fulfilled. So I went to this retreat and I had some crazy experiences, right? We had ceremonies, sweat lodges, connection, community, and I get home, and of course I wasn't making a lot of money on the farm. I wasn't making a lot of money personal training. I didn't have any money. So I moved back in with my mom. And here I am feeling pretty low, pretty lost, yet more connected to my soul than I've ever been. It was a very interesting place. So how did I navigate that situation? Well, at my mom's, I got home and I started watching kid shows. Started watching Legend of Korra, Avatar: Last Airbender. I started watching the Dune series. I started watching all these like animated Pixar's movies I was interested in. I started watching Gaia, which I called my guilty pleasure, watching, Ancient Civilizations and Initiation by Matthias De Stefano and all these shows about aliens and extraterrestrials and the real history of the world, right? And it was interesting because the story in my head is, how am I going to make money? What am I going to do with my life? And then my soul was saying, let's go watch the show. Let's go have some fun. Let the kid out. So I'm having this like struggle inside. And then all of a sudden my mom comes to me one day after a lot of pressure of get a job. And I was just like, I'm listening to my soul. And she's like, well, what is your soul telling you? It's not saying anything right now. My soul wasn't telling me anything. It was just like, be still, be patient. And it was like the SpongeBob episode when they have the magic conch shell, right? The magic conch shell. What should we do now? Nothing. And that was my story last winter. And I'm living at my mom's, and she comes in. She says, my friend, they said they're looking to hire a school teacher. Would you be interested in teaching kids? You're great with kids. I was like, sure, I need a job. And my friend used to work there as their PE teacher, and he was, lo and behold, a week after she told me that, he let me know that he was actually going to be leaving and moving to Louisiana. So there'd be an opening. And so I applied, and they told me I need to get my license to teach, in a public school, right? It was a private school, but it was publicly funded, and it was a therapeutic school for kids in foster care with severe mental health challenges, a lot of anger, a lot of violence, and just people having a tough go at life. And, I just wanted to make a difference. I was just following my soul. So I end up at the school, and I'm, working as a substitute teacher's assistant in the elementary school classroom with 5 kids between 8 and 11, and just helping in any way I could. And meanwhile, I'd been doing a lot of spiritual inner work and studying all these crazy esoteric things. Then I get to the school, and it's, normal public school lunches, normal public school things, pharmaceuticals, your mainstream therapeutic approaches with these kids. And I noticed they were very stressed, under a lot of dysregulated nervous system and just struggling. And so the teacher, just to, give the kids something that they could have to calm them down, because normal schoolwork was a lot. It was very stressful for them to just do math or read a book. And some of them couldn't even read. They grew up without parents, some of them. So I'm at this school, and I go in, part-time, and the other part of the time I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And we were watching kid show like Ben 10, or we were watching Wizards of Waverly Place about magic. And I'm in this classroom and I'm learning from these kids about compassion and how to hold space and how to, you know, not correct the kids, but let them express themselves. And it was interesting because what I was doing was downloading all the information I was going to need now for this project I'm working on, the Earth Guardians, right? And as I'm learning like about like these worlds and these beings, the Palladians and the Arcturians and the history of our world, the kids are starting to tell me like they believe that there's spaceships outside of our planet and that there's good aliens and bad aliens and that there is more to their life, and they started speaking in different languages. And it was quite a fascinating experience. And meanwhile, I'm not sure what to make of it because I'm like, we're supposed to do math right now, but they want to talk about aliens and right what's going on the planet. And they really felt this deep longing to heal the planet. And meanwhile, I was doing more inner work, and I had a past life regression on a spaceship, and I was meeting certain beings in my own experience, right? And so there was a part of my soul plan there. And after about 3 months, I had been waiting to get my test results back to see if I got my teaching license to be able to teach the kids full time as a biology teacher and a PE teacher. And what happened was they told me they hired another teacher. They were going to go in a different direction. And meanwhile, I'm thinking the only reason I'm working there is because I needed to like acclimate myself to the school before I started full time. And they told me, yeah, you're probably going to want another job. So I fly out to California, where I had been earlier, right before I started the school. In January, I attended a workshop at Paul Chek's house for my mandala, little art therapy. And when I was there, I met a guy through my Abundance Archetype program, Michael Rocco, a professional poker player, who had bought the farm that I'm at now, an avocado farm, 24-acre avocado farm in Bonsall, California. And I'm living here right now, but when I met him in January, I realized, oh, wow, you're starting a farm. I lived on a farm last year. He was interested in biodynamics. I had taken a course on it and been, immersed in the world of biodynamics. It was a great fit. So I told him when I figured out I wasn't going to be able to be a school teacher in March, hey, you guys need some employees? You need some help, like starting the farm? They were like, yeah. So I flew out here for 3 weeks. Said, yeah, we'll do 3 weeks, see how it goes. And I flew out here, and while I'm out here, I take this workshop that Paul Chek was starting called Your Personal Myth Workshop. And I was like, I got some money right now from working at the school. Like, might as well spend all my money on this workshop. Why not? What do I got to lose? Right? I might learn something about myself. And it taught me that I love storytelling and that I'm very good at it. And it's actually been something that's been a part of me my whole life. And so the soul plan started to really reveal itself during this time. Something unlocked when I was writing my own myth, and it was a lot of resistance, but I learned how to world build. I learned the hero's journey and character arc and character development. And when I presented my final myth to the class, I was actually driving back out to California to live on this farm for full time. I realized after I flew back home in April that this is where I wanted to live and this is where I wanted to work, and I was interested in doing another summer of farming. So I was on a 9-day road trip out to California again, and we did our last class. So I stopped at my friend's house, presented my myth, and at the end of it, there was apparently I didn't know, I was in this class for about a month. It's like studying myth. There was a lady who was a ghostwriter and an author, owned a publishing company in Germany, who, after I read my myth, was so impressed that she wanted to collaborate and said, like, you could publish this myth. And then Paul was inspiring me, telling me, like, Tucker, you can get rich off writing children's stories. Like, you need to write children's stories. You have a real gift. So this is the second day of my road trip back to California. I'm like, wow, I'm so inspired. I'm going to continue writing. And I was getting downloads as I'm driving back out here, and I'm in the high desert, and I'm like looking at the sky and thinking about all these things I've learned about. And I go to the Grand Canyon, and it was just a beautiful trip that I took across the country. And I get here at the end of May, and I just started writing the Earth Guardians. I started coming up with this idea. I was like, I'm going to write a novel. And now I look back at it and I see how like perfectly it all unfolded, right? Because the story of the Earth Guardians is about young people awakening to their cosmic purpose, their bigger purpose, why they're really here. And the characters are modeled after people I know in my life. And the idea of it was really inspired by seeing these kids at the school. They were suffering. They were really suffering, and they were so confused, and they were getting yelled at for talking about aliens and speaking different languages. And I wanted to bridge the gap for them and show them that they're not crazy and that they're actually having a true spiritual experience. We have very spiritual beings coming into this world that want to help the earth, and they're being raised in families that are very mainstream to learn about the problems that are happening. But I don't want to see them get lost in what the last generations have done. I want them to have a story that they can utilize to make sense of their lives and to inspire themselves and others to create a better world. So right now we're raising a generation on screens, showing them violence, disconnection. What if we showed them their power instead? What if we show them they're the bridge between worlds? What if we help them remember why they came to heal the planet? And I'm not creating this alone. I'm doing this collaboratively. And the funny part is when I got to this farm and I started writing the story, Ben Stewart, who the Abundance Archetype founder, Jason Picard, helped produce this course, The Soul of Filmmaking, with Ben, who has 20 years of filmmaking experience, was making shows on Gaia, which was the TV streaming service I was using to create the concepts for this show, has a course on how to make films. Very comprehensive course where you get individual mentorship as well as community support, and it's a 6-month program, how to go from start to finish, create your own film. And I decided to sign up. I was like, I'm making a little more money, and I might as well spend the rest of my money on this, right? And I asked my soul, I must have something. I was like, dear soul, should I sign up for this course? Yes. I got a strong yes. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So I signed up, and Ben loved the idea. He really saw the potential in it. He believed in my vision. And I feel supported by all the mentors I have, my community, my family. Everyone I've told this idea to loves it. So I wanted to bring you all behind the scenes on my journey and show you, the ups and the downs and the hero's journey behind the scenes of creating something that will be on the big screen, right, or on your TV screen. So from here, right, if you feel called to be part of the story, definitely support the mission. Definitely share this with people. Follow along. I'll be creating more content just like this. Let me know what content you would like to see, any previews you'd like. And remember, we're not just creating content. We're planting seeds for the new Earth, right? You're an Earth Guardian. I'm an Earth Guardian. That's why this series was created, to make the world a better place and to really understand our place in the universe as an intergalactic family. So if you feel called to the mission, subscribe to the page, like the video, share it. And this is Spirit Tuck on Spirit by Tuck.
Searching my soul till you feel the peak. My soul, feel the peak. Searching all over. Close my eyes, all over. Let my soul speak.